Shabbat Shalom. I am so pleased to welcome everybody to join us for Shabbat this evening at Congregation Sherith, Israel. I'm Rabbi Abby Phelps. I'm joined, as you can see, by our wonderful Cantor Toby Glaser and our music director, Jonathan Dimmock, who just played so beautifully to set the mood for us. I also want to make sure everyone knows that we are observing a special Shabbat tonight. In partnership with HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, we are observing Refugee Shabbat tonight. It's a Shabbat experience that we are dedicating to lifting up the struggles and the resilience of refugees and asylum seekers. We have the great privilege this evening of hosting HIAS's President and CEO, Mark Hetfield. You can see him now, I think, on your screen. He will address us a little later on regarding the incredible work that his organization does to support refugees and asylum seekers. And I also want to highlight the fact that on Wednesday, March 10th at 5 p.m., we will have another installment of our From the Front Lines series. We'll join with representatives of HIAS and also the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity for a discussion of how each of us can get involved in the critical work that they do. So for now, as we prepare to enter into Shabbat, I want to invite you in the spirit of this celebration to set an intention of welcoming. Welcoming, of course, the peace and the joy of Shabbat into our hearts and our homes, and also welcoming all those among us who seek refuge from persecution and who would seek to join us in our Shabbat joy. Before we further open our service, we want to take a moment for you to be greeted as well by a representative of our Board of Trustees. So it's my pleasure to introduce Alan Mervis, who I believe is out there, if we could highlight him for a moment. And he will add his own words of welcome. Do we have Alan? Oh, I don't see him. Well, Alan Mervis may be perhaps running a little bit behind schedule.
I think I'm actually, can you hear me now?
Oh, I can hear you. Oh, you're Diane. There we go. Sorry, Alan. We didn't realize. Alan, please go ahead.
My name always shows up as under a mystery nom de plume, so that's why. But yes, good evening, everyone. My name is Alan Mervis. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees, and as I look around the virtual room here, I think I know almost all of you. Those that I don't, I look forward to meeting soon. I think what I would like to just say is, Rabbi Graff's weekly missive dated week 51 indicates that we are entering our second year of this COVID new world, and I think as we look at this, where we are in this year's worth of travail, we see a lot on the horizon to be that's very positive to be hopeful for. Obviously, in the last half hour, the Senate just announced compromise on the COVID relief package, on minimum wage. This morning, the CDC announced that over 55 million Americans have had at least one vaccination, and almost 30 million have had the full double set. So, there's a lot to be thankful for, a lot to look forward to. So, as Rabbi Phelps said, and we have, Friday nights are a time to take all of the stress and strain of this week, put it aside, take deep breaths, and welcome the Shabbat service, the Shabbat bride, and looking forward to our next week. Thanks much.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you for those beautiful words of welcome. And we continue our process of welcoming Shabbat with a beautiful setting of Psalm 95.
Mikolot mayim rabim adirim mishbereya Mikolot mayim rabim
As we welcome in Shabbat, we do so in part by lighting candles to mark the beginning of this sacred time. It's often an opportunity for us to honor someone in our community whom we wish to highlight for everyone. And we have the great pleasure this evening of honoring Nia Taylor, whom we will miss dearly as she moves on to a new phase of her life after working with Congregation Sherith Israel. For how many years have you been with us?
5.
5. So it has been a total pleasure to benefit from your hard work and your leadership and your good cheer and all of the wonderful things that you bring to this work. Certainly for the entire time that I've been here and before that. So thank you on behalf of everyone at Sherith Israel. Anything you want to tell us?
I just want to say thank you to all of you who are here and not in the room. It's been a pleasure. When I began my 10-year at Sherith Israel, I didn't think it would last so long, and I didn't think I'd build such wonderful friendships in a real community. So thank you so much for everything. All of you have been so kind and supportive, and I also am very honored to be here during the Social Action Shabbat. I had the pleasure of participating in a lot of different opportunities with the Social Action Committee, but I would say my most rewarding experience was working on the postcard campaign with David Newman and Steve Garber and everybody else who worked on it. And I want to say that was a highlight among working with HIAS and supporting the membership committee. All of you just have made me a stronger and better person. So I want to thank you all for that. And I'll do the candle lighting. So if you have candles as well, please join me. Go figure, my match broke.
You're just trying to make us feel better because we always struggle with the matches at the Bima.
It's okay. Okay.
Love those beautiful candles.
Thank you.
And hello to Mom Kathy in the background too.
And if you hear barking, it's Hershey and Licorice. And many of you know.
Dogs.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you for bringing light to our lives literally and physically right now and metaphorically at all other times. And as has been said in the chat, you may not be working at Sherith Israel any longer, but you're certainly not going anywhere. And we look forward to continuing to see you and have you as part of our community. So thank you so much. And I know someone else wants to add his own appreciation for you. We have a special guest this evening. Our Cantor Emeritus, Cantor Marty Feldman, is here with us. There he is. And he's going to offer his own blessings. So Cantor Feldman, please go ahead.
First of all, Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Nia, I've known you, loved you, respected you for as long as you've been at Sherith Israel. You are a person who has fantastic qualities of heart and mind. This expression goes to know you is to love you. And anybody who knows you is very fortunate because their lives have been enriched because of your presence. I can go on and on and on about you. You're highly intelligent, compassionate, helpful, loving. Nancy and I had a wonderful life experience with you, many, many projects. And I can go on and on and on about you. And all I would say is that in Yiddish's expression, get in the shumma. That's what you have, a kind, sweet soul. And you are blessed in so many ways. And your lovely mother is behind you, and we love her also. And what I would like to do, honor you with this very special blessing of our people. Gikunecha, Yiso Adonai Poravelecha, Miyosem Lecha Shalom. May God continue to bless you with many, many years of good health, happiness, fulfillment, contentment, and peace of mind. We love you, we respect you, and we will miss your presence. Amen. God bless you again, and your beautiful mother as well.
Amen ve'amen.
Amen. Yes, and we look forward to continuing to see you, Nia. You are not allowed to go anywhere. So thank you for continuing to be such a vital member of our community. We now resume our Shabbat service. We begin the process of formally welcoming Shabbat in the form of the Sabbath bride, our beloved, whom we greet every Friday evening with Lecha Dodi.
Lecha dodi לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו תפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה יתעוררי יתעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שדברי כבוד אדוני אלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה.
We now invite you to rise as able as we prepare to formally join together as one prayer community with the Barchu.
Yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai. Yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed
Jews, we understand that God expresses God's love for us in many ways, through the beauty of creation, through all the wonderful things in our lives, and also through Torah and mitzvot, through the laws and teachings that we have been given. And we give thanks for all of these things as we sing together Ahavat Olam.
אהבת עולם, בית ישראל, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו, בשוכבנו וקומנו, נשיח בחוקיך. ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגע יומם ולילה.
Please.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
As we prepare to sing Mi Chamocha, the prayer that recalls our biblical journey from slavery to freedom, we think also of the many times throughout history that our people have had to wander in search of safety. From Tsarist Russia to the horrors of the Holocaust, to persecution in Iran, the former Soviet Union, Cuba, Ethiopia, and beyond. Time and time again, we have found ourselves expelled from our homelands for being who we are. But each time, we were held together by our community and by those who risked their safety to protect ours. And as we continued to survive against all odds, our hearts grew, making room to hold others who had experienced what we had. And so it is that we welcome refugees and asylum seekers into our community today. Recalling our exodus from Egypt, the Torah tells us, "You know the soul of the stranger." While our responsibility to protect the rights of refugees and asylum seekers does not derive from our own servitude in Egypt, that experience does amplify our obligation to welcome. May our commitment to welcoming lead us to take bold action in support of refugees and asylum seekers from every corner of the earth. And just as the Jewish people have thrived, so too must we help today's refugees of all faiths and ethnicities to thrive as they rebuild their lives and become part of their new communities. Please join us in Mi Chamocha.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, מלכותך ראו בניך, חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זרי אנו
Every Shabbat, I find myself reflecting on the great privilege of the shelter that protects me in my own home, the shelter of the dome over our sanctuary that is currently protecting our cantor, but also our own sacred meeting space, and of course, the shelter of peace, the Sukkah of Shalom that God extends over us all at all times. Let's join together in giving thanks for this shelter with Hashkivenu.
השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום. והעמידנו, שומרנו לחיים, לחיים. ופרס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. סוכת שלום, סוכת שלום. As I lay me down, may I feel peace all around, sheltered beneath your wings. May I feel safe and protected until a new day comes. השכיבנו אדוני, אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום. והעמידנו, שומרנו לחיים, לחיים. סוכת Sukat Shalom, Sukat Shalom, Sukat Shalom, Aleinu, Aleinu,
Our next prayer actually comes from this week's Parsha, as our cantor pointed out to me before we began the service. We're reminded, oh, go ahead.
Before we move on to our next prayer, that was just also a quick plug. If you enjoyed that music, that is Michelle Citron setting of Hashkiveno. She will be joining us again next week, which is very exciting. So please tune in for more of her beautiful melodies and all kinds of fun music excitement.
Yes, indeed. Please do. Please continue with us to observe Shabbat as we celebrate that we do in this week's Parsha with Vishamru. We say that we keep Shabbat, and of course, one of the famous things that Jews like to say is that we keep Shabbat and Shabbat keeps us. So thank goodness for this tradition that gives us the opportunity to rest and to come together for these moments of renewal. Please join us in Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת ביני את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת וינפש.
We now invite you to rise once again as we prepare for the Amidah, the central prayer of our service. Please join us in reciting Adonai Sefatai. May God open our lips so that our mouths can declare God's praise.
Adonai Sefatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha Adonai open up my lips and my mouth may declare your praise. Yadai dai dai yadai dai dai yadai dai dai yadai dai dai yadai dai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim ve'Konei Hakol וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם. מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. ויוני בי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Oh, may the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart be acceptable before you. O God, my rock and my redeemer. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael.
My pleasure to introduce this evening Karen Alcheler, who, in addition to being the co-chair of our Social Action Committee, is also going to be the moderator of our panel this coming Wednesday for our event spotlighting refugees, asylum seekers, and other immigrants. So Karen, if you would, please go ahead.
Thank you, Abby. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. I'm here this evening to introduce Mark Hetfield, who has joined us for the evening. Really looking forward to his talk. He's here to initiate our Refugee Shabbat week. He was here, some of you will remember, in September 2016, a very different moment in our national history. He is the president and CEO of HIAS, and he'll set a new stage, I think, for our work as a sanctuary synagogue. And also will deepen our understanding of the challenges and opportunities ahead for asylum seekers and refugees. HIAS began, and as many of you know, almost 150 years ago, as the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, helping generations of Jews not only to immigrate, but also to be, and I would underline it, resettled in the United States. Today, HIAS resettles refugees of all faiths and ethnicities globally, and does so as a major implementing partner of the United Nations Refugee Agency and of the Department of State. Mark's first job, we understand, with HIAS was as a caseworker in Rome 30 years ago, done a lot of things since. He's built his career in refugee and immigration law, policy, and programs, came back to HIAS, and then in 2013, he was made president and CEO. And during that time, he has led a remarkable transformation of HIAS, from helping refugees, as he says, because they were Jewish, to helping refugees because we are Jewish. This week, tonight, and then in a conversation from the front lines, you're going to hear a lot about tonight, happening on Wednesday, we will be looking ahead, now with our eyes wide open, to face the realities of a broken system, to celebrate the healing that is now in progress, and to find the right balance between patience and impatience with the new administration as they initiate to release systemic change. So welcome, Mark. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Karen, and Shabbat Shalom. I'm actually, normally I'm based in Silver Spring, Maryland, which is where HIAS's headquarters is, but I'm speaking to you from Napa tonight. I've been working out of Napa since October. My sister-in-law is a podiatrist here, so we've been staying with her. And I feel so close to you tonight for that reason, and yet so far. But the music and the family stories I'm reading about HIAS in the chat box and the reflections on Nia make this such a warm place and make me feel closer than I am. I'm really honored, as Karen said, to be back here tonight. I last spoke at Sherith, Israel on September 23rd, 2016, and our world has changed a lot since then. And yet, strangely enough, my message tonight and my feelings are almost the same as they were on that Shabbat. Back then, the world was in a global refugee crisis with more forcibly displaced persons than at any time in human history. And there was a great need for action. Back then, on September 23rd, 2016, I was actually quite hopeful things would soon improve. They didn't. They got far worse. And we at HIAS, the people we try to protect and our country, have frankly been to hell and back since then. But the good news is, like on September 23rd, 2016, I feel there is cause for help and hope. And this time, I hope I'm right. I wasn't right last time, but things are, as Karen said, they're actually not better today for refugees than they were 2 months ago. A lot of nice pronouncements have been made. We haven't seen any progress. We have seen missed opportunities already. So we shouldn't be celebrating. We shouldn't be patient. We should be acting, but hopeful. There is cause for hope, and there is cause for action. And without action, we will not have progress. So that's the last 5 years. Let's talk about just the last 12 months. If the last 12 months were to have a slogan, it would probably be another grim milestone. For most of the last year, every time I turn on the television, I hear that we've reached another grim milestone. This is referred to COVID infections or COVID hospitalizations or COVID deaths. And unfortunately, COVID is not all that another grim milestone refers to. Every year on June 20th is World Refugee Day. And every World Refugee Day, year after year, we hit another grim milestone. Another all-time high number of forcibly displaced persons. People who fled their homes and who have not been able to go back. When I was here at Sherith, Israel in 2016, I mentioned that the grim milestone was 69.6 million forcibly displaced persons. That was an all-time record at that time. But on June 20th of this past year, that grim milestone was 10 million people higher, 79.5 million forcibly displaced persons worldwide, a higher and a worse record. And I am pretty confident that on June 20th, 2021, in just a few months, we will hit yet another grim milestone. There are more refugees than ever before because the international community has been unable, or perhaps more accurately, unwilling to work to stem root causes of displacement, nor have we found solutions for those people who are displaced. And the pandemic has been difficult for all of us. Many of us have lost loved ones, have lost family, have lost friends. But just think how it is for refugees who have fled their homes, live in crowded and insecure shelters, people who can't socially distance, and almost certainly can't work from home. They don't even have a home anymore, and they don't usually have work either. The attitude toward refugees has changed dramatically over the last couple of months in Washington, but we are not yet free to desist. There is a lot of work to be done. Executive orders have been issued, but they're not enough. And frankly, they're just words. They haven't actually done anything yet. The refugee policy that's in place today, as I said at the beginning of this talk, is the exact same as it was 2 months ago. People are being turned away. The same discriminatory policies are in effect. And when it comes to asylum seekers, people at our border who are seeking protection, the Remain in Mexico policy has technically ended. But guess what? All adult asylum seekers are still being forced to remain in Mexico, just under the continuation of a different policy which goes by a different name, Title 42, the public health exclusion. The refugee ceiling for this fiscal year has been raised. Well, actually, it hasn't been raised at all. We've been told it will be raised 316%. It hasn't been. But because U.S. refugee officers are not allowed to travel to refugees to interview them, no refugees will be interviewed for months. The executive order orders Homeland Security to promptly revise its regulations to allow for refugees to be interviewed by video. I don't know what promptly means, but whatever it is, it's not going to be soon enough. Now, a couple months after I was out here last in 2016, I went to Buffalo, New York, just after the November election. And there I saw firsthand the beautiful work of the Jewish Family Service of Buffalo welcoming refugees. The Syrian refugees we were helping at that time simply referred to the Jewish Family Service as Jewish Family. While I was in Buffalo, I met G, a woman who had been a journalist in Syria, and she pleaded with me to help her reunite with her daughter and her grandchildren who are living as refugees in Egypt. On January 28th, 2017, one day after the Muslim and refugee ban had been issued, G texted me from Buffalo saying she cries every night, knowing her daughter cannot join her and she will not be able to see her daughter for a long, long time. 4 years passed, and I actually heard from G again on Inauguration Day 2021 at 11:51 a.m. She texted me and said, "It's a happy day. Congratulations, Mr. Mark. Please help me bring my only daughter from Egypt. You promised me when we met in Buffalo 4 years ago, and I thank you very much. I love America." For us at HIAS, it is particularly meaningful that G's daughter and grandchildren are stuck in Egypt, of all places. It is the Jewish experience of being stuck in Egypt and the experience of escaping from Egypt that informs the Jewish teaching that the rabbi referred to earlier, reiterated more than any other in the Torah, that we shall love the stranger as ourselves, for we know the soul of the stranger, for we were once strangers in the land of Egypt. Now, HIAS has saved millions of lives through refugee resettlement. Moses was 120 when he died, and HIAS is older than that, and we're still going strong, doing our best to help refugees make it to the promised land. At HIAS, we do know failure very well. We learn from it. We don't celebrate it, especially when failure means that refugee families remain separated and remain in danger. And to remind me of the cost of failure, I carry with me a copy of the HIAS file of Anne Frank and her family. We've been failing G for 4 years now, and I won't rest. None of us at HIAS will rest until we reunite G with her daughter. That's why I'm so glad to have you here with me today celebrating Refugee Shabbat. HIAS can only succeed when we have supporters, volunteers, and advocates behind us. HIAS's greatest strength is that we can say we have the Jewish community behind us. Our greatest asset is that we represent a community, and your participation in Refugee Shabbat gives us hope at HIAS that we will continue to be successful helping refugees, not because they are Jewish, but because we are. HIAS has just finished a massive global exercise of re-articulating our core values as an organization. The core values we came up with for HIAS are welcome, justice, courage, partnership, resilience, and empathy. Now, the Torah tells us over and over and over again to love the stranger as ourselves, for we know the heart of the stranger, for we were once strangers in the land of Egypt. To me, that sounds like the very definition of empathy. But we learned something interesting as we attempted to translate our core values into biblical Hebrew. There is no biblical word for empathy. There's a modern Hebrew word, but not a word in biblical Hebrew. The word for empathy in English describes a feeling. In biblical Hebrew, the focus is not on feeling for the other, but on action for the other. Action based on remembering where we came from. Our empathy is a command for action, and that is what HIAS is all about, what Refugee Shabbat is all about, and what we as a people are all about. We can't do our work without you. Together, we can make the world a better place by acting on our empathy for refugees through education, advocacy, direct service, and tzedakah. We hope you'll continue to connect to your community and to us to find out more about how you can get involved, like on March 10th. And we thank all of you who are already part of the Jewish movement for refugees, and we look forward to doing more good work together. And I see that you've just joined our welcome card campaign, where we send welcome cards to new members of Congress, not just to make them feel welcome, but to make them understand that it is important to welcome others to our country, to welcome people who have fled persecution. And I thank you for signing up for that campaign. And I hope you'll be there on March 10th when my colleague Joe Goldman will speak to you about what else you can do at Sherith Israel to help refugees and to help HIAS advance its mission of welcoming them to our country. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. Refugee Shabbat Shalom.
Refugee Shabbat Shalom. Thank you so much, Mark, for joining us this evening, for taking some time out of what I'm sure is a busy refugee Shabbat, given the ability to be present in many places online. I'm sure there have been many demands on your time, and we're so grateful that you spent this time with us. I also want to point out, I just put a link in the chat to exactly the welcome card that Mark was referring to. If you click that link, you can choose Sherith Israel from a dropdown, and you can send a card on behalf of us and HIAS to Congress, asking them to act on behalf of refugees and asylum seekers. So thank you so much for those words. We have the opportunity now to continue our observance of Shabbat, continue this opportunity for reflection and for embrace and welcoming of all peoples. And we begin that process by thinking in particular of those in our community who are in need of healing, whether that be healing of mind, body, or spirit. We think particularly this evening of Shoshana Chana Asher, Rabbi Alexander Duchovny, Michael Enery, David Habib, Nancy Igdaloff, William Kurian, Carolyn Reznikoff, Carolyn Olson-Stellman, Lo Tolson, and Hilary Van Trees. And to those names, we add any names that you are mentioning in your homes or in the chat. Please join us in praying for healing for all those in our community with Misha Beirach.
מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say
Shabbat is a time for peace and restoration and healing, and it is also a time for joy and celebration, for us to come together and enjoy one another's simchas, happy occasions. So if you are experiencing a simcha this evening, please feel free to share it in the chat. I see that David Perlstein has mentioned that he has a new short story, or at least new to us as an audience, that has appeared at Flash Fiction Magazine. You can click his link to see it. I see that Adrienne has yet another running milestone because she is an extraordinary running machine. I see that we have vaccination appointments to celebrate. So whatever you are celebrating this evening, we invite you to join us in celebrating together with Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. Amen.
Amen. As we enter the concluding portion of our service, we invite you to rise one more time for the Aleinu prayer, the prayer in which we remind one another of our obligations to create the perfected world that we envision. Please join us in Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גאולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונן. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth. Our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and every nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. This evening, we remember for Shiva, for the first 7 days of mourning, Stanley Newman, father of David Newman and father-in-law of Ellen Newman, who was a wonderful, very giving member of our community up until just this week. We laid him to rest this Wednesday. The perpetual memorials in our community are Dr. Elliot Eisenberg, Judith M. Escalante Melvin, and Art Rosenberg. This evening, we also observe the following yahrzeits. Remember Robert Allen, Ivan A. Annixter, Roma Denmark, Irving Feynman, Seymour Garber, Mildred Speed Golson, Elizabeth Hecht, Penelope Lyon Hausman, Mildred Ottner Isaacs, Rebecca Jacob, Maurice L. Kamens, MD, Maisie Koss, Walter Lopheimer, Harry Lerner, Harold Mervis, Louis Mervis, Milton Rabin, Nathan Rothman, Edward Sapphire, Bibish Shaposhnikov, Roma Sherry, Baal Ruchel Spindle, Herschel Tolson, Ben Wine, and Elka Zajcik. To those names, we add all the names of loved ones whom you hold in your hearts this evening or whom you wish to mention in the chat. We invite you to join us as a community in words of Mourner's Kaddish, Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, B'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon u'b'yomechon, V'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala u'vizman kariv, v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal, shmei d'kudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Aseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, Amen. May the one who creates peace on high bring peace to us and to all those who mourned in Israel and among all peoples. And together we say, Amen. Before we conclude our service, we'll take just a moment to offer up some announcements. I have a few, but before I jump into mine, I thought I would give the opportunity to our Executive Director, Gordon Gladstone, to see if he has any to share.
Oh, I got a whole bunch of stuff. So we'll start off by saying that I want to say thank you to Nia. Nia has been at my right, or maybe my left side, because I'm left-handed, since my arrival 3 years ago, and has just been an essential cog in the machine that is Sherith Israel. We are saddened to see her go. I am a big believer that talented staff are merely borrowed from their futures. So we've enjoyed borrowing her from her future. We wish her well in that future. I also hope you will all join me in welcoming Talia Benari, who is Nia's replacement, and there'll be an email forthcoming introducing her to the community in this coming week. Okay, enough of that stuff. As has been mentioned, this coming Wednesday, we will have a From the Front Lines with Joe Goldman. The fun thing about Joe Goldman is he was once my intern. So it is with great delight that I welcome him back into close orbit. Joe is my intern for us at our offices at J Street in San Francisco, shortly after he decided that a career in law was not the course he should be on. So delighted to see him again. And that'll be Wednesday at 5 o'clock. More immediately, there is a morning minion tomorrow. I know many people have waited, hopefully not holding your breath. It's been a long wait for the return of the morning minion. That'll be led by Cantor Glaser at 10:30. Before that, at 9 a.m., there is a Littles minion. So if you can't get enough of a morning minion, you have 2 chances tomorrow morning. But if you have children who are in the single digit, that's 0 to 9 range, I hope you will join us for a very quick service at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. There is a bat mitzvah on the horizon on March 20th. Evie Richards will join us to be called to the Torah, to chant Torah, and many other things. And I hope you will join us for that. And more information will be forthcoming. And finally, now that we're past Purim, guess what? It's almost Passover. You knew it was coming. Get out your feathers and your wooden spoons. Once again, our second night Seder will be digital. We hope you will join us. This year, we are offering a catering option in coordination with the good folks at Delicious Catering. And there will be more information forthcoming in your inboxes in that regard. I think that's all I have, Rabbi. What you got?
Well, you pretty much covered everything I have. So yes to Torah study at 9:15 tomorrow. In addition to the minyan, in addition to the youth minyan, there will also be Torah study. I have put a number of things in the chat. I just want to, first of all, I want to highlight something that was said in the chat, which is Nancy Sheftel-Gomes is highlighting that Hamotzi and chicken soupers need cookies. Drop-offs for that are Sundays from 9 to noon, and you can email hamotzi@sherithisrael.org if you want to help out with that. So if you can, please do. In terms of the things I put in the chat, the first thing I put in is a flyer from the RAC, from the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism. And it's a flyer advertising a couple of sessions that are coming up, I believe also on the 10th and then on the 11th, to learn about the legislative priorities of the RAC and to get to give an opinion about what exactly the highest priority campaign should be for this legislative session. So if you're able to participate in that, please do. If you can download the flyer from the chat, you can do that, but also the 2 links that I put in the chat. The first is to the March 10th session of the RAC meeting, and the second is the March 11th, and those meetings are identical. The idea is just to capture as many people as possible. So if you can go to one or the other, please do. And the other thing I put in the chat was that beautiful flyer I showed, which Leslie Rabin fabulously made for us to advertise this event on March 10th, where we will see Joe Goldman from HIAS, and we will see also the Reverend Deborah Lee, who is the director of the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity, which also, like HIAS, does extraordinary work to support refugees and other immigrants. So please join us for any of these things that you're able to. Cantor, do you have anything to add?
No, I think the morning, even if you have no experience in morning liturgy, it's going to be super accessible. We're going to talk through a bunch of different prayers. Come at 10:30 tomorrow morning. The link's online. It should be a lot of fun.
Yes, and it will be, if you're thinking, oh, but I don't know how to choose between Torah study and morning minyan, you don't have to. They are sequential. So come to both if you can. Come to any and all. Yes, well, with that then, we are prepared to conclude our service this evening. Before we do that, I want to say one more thank you to Mark Hetfield for joining us this evening. Also a thank you to Karen, who has really helped us to put these events together. And of course, a thank you to Cantor Glaser and Jonathan Dimmock, and to Nia, who has done such extraordinary work for us for all these years, and who we're so glad is not leaving us for any real way and anytime soon. So
and
with
Peter
that,
for his excellent spotlighting.
Yes, and Peter for his excellent spotlighting, and Gordon as well. So let's go ahead and conclude our service, beginning with Kiddush. Please join us in saying our blessing over the wine with which we sanctify Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvradzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בד ובחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
It's definitely been sitting here since Purim.
Oh dear, oh dear. All right, let's replace that. Well, this is one of my favorite parts of our gathering together. We get the opportunity to look at one another's beautiful chalot. So if you have a beautiful challah, please feel free to hold it up so that everyone can see it. We'll see if we can spotlight anybody. I don't know if we have any exciting, oh, there we go. Ruth, of course, has beautiful challah, as always. And I'm sure many other folks do. And alas, I cannot see you, but I can see Joe Beth is beautiful. And I can see Chris and Janet have one, and Valerie, and yes, all kinds of wonderful chalot. So if you have a challah, please hold it up with us and join us in the motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon.
B'te'avon. We don't have any sprinkle Barbie challahs this evening, but you can all create your own, as you wish. So with that, we conclude our service with a prayer for peace, a song which reminds us of the importance of pursuing peace at Shabbat and throughout our lives. Please join us in Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, salam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, salam, salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Shalom, salam.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.